Could Terry McLaurin be on his way to Buffalo? Welcome into this edition of Bills Breakdown by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. We're going to let you hear from what one NFL insider had to say, urging the Buffalo Bills to make a trade for the Commanders' Pro Bowl wide receiver. We'll tell you all about it and more and react to it coming up in just a matter of moments here on today's show. Before we do, folks, we are closing in on 5,000 subscribers here on Bills Breakdown. We're just over 100 away from reaching that next milestone. You may be wondering, why should I subscribe? Well, it's a real simple formula, folks. More subscribers means more videos here on the channel. So if you want us to up things a bit as we get closer to training camp, then you need to subscribe now. Best part about it, 100% free, doesn't cost you a thing. YouTube.com/BillsNews to subscribe for free, and you'll be glad you did, and we'll get started with today's show. Bleacher Report is predicting that the Bills will make a trade for Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin. And you may be wondering, how did we get to this point where Terry McLaurin is on the trade market? Is this out of left field? Well, no, it's not out of left field at all. And the Buffalo Bills appear to be a team that makes a ton of sense to potentially make a move for McLaurin's services. Here's more from Bleacher Report. I think Terry McLaurin would be the perfect fit for Josh Allen. He can get down the field and stretch the defense out. Having a player on the outside that can win down the field is going to make the Bills pretty much an unstoppable offense. I think McLaurin would be a great fit. He would immediately come in and be the wide receiver one for the Buffalo Bills. And the most important thing is that he would elevate this offense. When you look at this Bills team, we know what they're capable of with Josh Allen under center, one of the very best quarterbacks in all of football. You got two really good tight ends. You have a solid run game, but the wide receiving core could be better for this Bills team. And I know that we heard Brandon Beane, the GM of the Buffalo Bills, say not too long ago, make the comparison to what Tom Brady had to endure in New England when they weren't really spending much on the receiver position and that they were spending on everything else. Eventually, though, even for an all-time great like Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback to ever play this game, it caught up to him, and he got sick of it and went on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you do not want Josh Allen to be in a position of thinking, what could have been? Why did we not surround him with the best potential options out there? And Terry McLaurin could certainly fit that mold. Another piece of this puzzle here, when it comes to Scary Terry, of why he could potentially be available, well, he's in the middle of a contract dispute right now, and he's not happy with that situation, and there has not been a deal done just yet to lock him in long term. This post coming on X from Jordan Schultz, Fox Sports NFL insider, not too long ago. He said this back on June 5th. Sources, Commanders All-Pro wide receiver Terry McLaurin has made it clear to the team that he's frustrated with the lack of progress on a long-term deal. As I previously reported, McLaurin unexpectedly left voluntary workouts after initially attending, and it remains to be seen whether he'll report for mandatory minicamp. McLaurin is entering the final year of his contract. Talks have been minimal. If we get to a point where Terry McLaurin cannot get a deal done with the Washington Commanders, and he is open for a trade, then the Buffalo Bills should definitely jump on this. And here's another thing that I would say for Buffalo of why they should consider this. This is turning to an arms race in the AFC right now. When you look at what the Kansas City Chiefs have to offer, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Houston Texans, the LA Chargers, the Denver Broncos, the list goes on and on and on, right? And everybody is trying to keep pace with the Kansas City Chiefs. And we saw last year, as good as the Bills were, it wasn't good enough to beat Kansas City. And it's not just Kansas City you have to worry about. There's a lot of good teams here. If you're Buffalo, I think you're saying to yourselves, what can we do to put our best foot forward here? And Terry McLaurin could potentially give you that possibility. So your chance to be the GM here on Bills Breakdown. Should the Bills trade for Scary Terry? You got two options here. Type T for trade, P for pass. Well, in the comments section, let us know what you think. Let's tell you more about Terry McLaurin, the former third-round pick out of The Ohio State back in 2019, coming off the best season of his career in 2024, where he was a Pro Bowler and a second-team All-Pro. It was his second Pro Bowl selection of his career that he's had so far to this point. And the thing that I like about Terry McLaurin more than anything is that he has been very consistent. I know that the Commanders had a fantastic season this year, getting to the NFC Championship game under new head coach Dan Quinn, their starting rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. There was a lot of good things to like about what the Washington Commanders did and the way that McLaurin shined playing his best football. But even beyond this past season, you look at some of the quarterbacks that Terry McLaurin has had to play with over the years when you're talking about the Jacoby Brissetts and the Sam Howells of the world. Even with those guys, you take a look at the numbers, he was still playing very well in that stretch. You can see 2023, 2022, and 2021, all of those seasons had over 1,000 yards. 13.7 yards a reception in 2021, 15.5 in 2022, 12.5 in 2023, 77 catches at least in all three of those seasons. And then last year gets to play with a real franchise quarterback and even a rookie at that in Jaden Daniels. And what does he do? Nearly 1,100 yards, 13 yards of reception, and his touchdowns went way up to 13. Just imagine what he could potentially do with a guy like Josh Allen under center here. All right? If we saw what he did with a rookie quarterback at Jaden Daniels, who was fantastic, don't get me wrong. I'm a big Jaden Daniels fan, but he was still a rookie, and I think that his best football is still well in front of him. All right? He's still got a ways to go. Imagine what he could do with a guy like Josh Allen, who's right in the thick of his prime years of his career. Here's the trade idea that Bleacher Report is throwing out there, that the Bills get Scary Terry along with a 2026 fifth-round pick, and in exchange they give up Curtis Samuel and a first-round pick. Now, I think that's a high asking price. And if that's the trade that it takes to bring in Terry McLaurin, it's a no for me. I think that's too much. But with that said, this is where I disagree with Bleacher Report here. I don't think you have to give up that much to get a deal done, let alone giving up Curtis Samuel and a first-round pick. I think that you could probably get a deal done if Terry McLaurin gets to the marketplace of probably about a second and a fifth-round pick to get a deal done. Because here's why. Not only are we talking about that you're taking on one of the best receivers in football, easily a top 10 receiver that you would be getting talent-wise, but there's the money factor here. And I think that dilutes the potential trade assets that you would have to give up. No one is arguing, saying whether Terry McLaurin is worth a first-round pick compared to players picked in the first round, but it's the money situation that I think would bring his asking price down in a potential trade, because you look at the contract projection that Draft Network put out for him relatively recently. They're thinking that he's going to get about 3 years, $94.5 million that he would be paid. And so that's why I believe that you wouldn't have to give up a first-round pick, let alone give up Curtis Samuel either, to get a deal done. That is a lot of money that you would be committing to Terry McLaurin, but he is still relatively young, and he has not spent a ton of time playing with a franchise quarterback here. So is it a gamble? Of course it is. But I think it's an investment very worth taking on if you're Buffalo and you get the opportunity to do so. I think he's absolutely worth it if they get the chance to make a potential deal to bring him in. Let's ask you, Bills Mafia, who's a player the Buffalo Bills should trade for? Who comes to mind? Whether it's Terry McLaurin or it's a Trey Hendrickson or it's somebody else out there, who would you like to see in Buffalo? Weigh in the comments section. Tell me what you think. Appreciate you joining us here on this edition of Bills Breakdown. For continuing Bills coverage, subscribe now for free. YouTube.com/Bills News. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.